Welcome everyone. Let's see. Before we get started, I want to just dive right in to some basic formulas. This is stuff you need to know. This is going to be the building blocks of the rest of this presentation. And so everyone, if you could please, it's really important that we go over these five formulas. Actually, good news. Just kidding. You don't need to know any of this stuff. Actually, this last one I made up. That's not even a real formula. One of these is like the quadratic equation, which has nothing to do with finance. So you don't need to know any of that because this, oh boy, this is the simple path to financial freedom. All right, welcome, welcome. So there are a few ground rules, however. Number one, go easy on yourself. Okay, the past is behind you. We're moving forward, y'all. And like I said, I've made every financial mistake in the book. Like, y'all don't need to feel bad about anything. We're moving forward. Next ground rule. This is very, very important. You don't need to know everything. You, you only need to know just enough to get to your destination. So this presentation is going to be simplified, and I get a good analogy for this is Google Maps. By the way, just a side note, this is, if you live in EPA, you might recognize this. This is Taqueria La Cazuela. When I used to work in EPA, I live in Bend, Oregon now, but when I used to be in EPA, this was my spot. I would go here for like chips and salsa all the time. So if you're fortunate enough to be located anywhere near here, Taqueria La Cazuela. But it's I think we're all familiar with this. If you want to know how to get to where you need to go, you just need to know how to put in where you're starting from and what your destination is, and then boom, get your directions here on the side. What you don't see is all this nonsense behind the scenes. I mean, some people know what all this means. I don't. In fact, I would say it's very confusing. And finance, the thing about finance and money is you can go as deep as you want to go with it. But if you want to just get to where you're trying to go, all you need are just the directions. You don't need to know everything. So wanted to make sure I stress that. Now, here's the takeaways. If you can only take away 4 things, this is it. This is the simple path right here. Underspend, meaning spend less than what you make. Invest, put your money to work. Avoid debt, minimize unnecessary debt, and insure, which means protect against life's uncertainties. So in this presentation, we're going to go over 1 through 3. Number 4, let me just say, is so important. We're not going to go over it today, but it's so important because if you happen to have a lot of money, you've been fortunate enough to, grow a lot of money through your lifetime. The fastest way to lose it is to have some sort of accident or some health issue and you're not insured. And then all your money goes away. So please, please, please make sure that you are insured. So that's all I will say about that. But let's move right along. So let's jump right in and talk about saving. This is the foundation of financial freedom. It's going to sound annoying because it's so basic, but this is really the building block of financial freedom. So first important principle, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So what I mean by this is, you could make $150,000, $200,000 a year. If you make $200,000 a year, but you spend $200,000 in one, well, I'm sorry to say, you are broke. So it's not how much you make, it is how much you keep. Pay yourself first. Okay, so some of you have heard of this concept, but if you haven't, this is critical. So a lot of people, what they do is they just save whatever's left over in the bank account at the end of the month. So you get to the end of the month, you're like, all right, let's see what's left over. If there's something left over, I'll go ahead and save that. A better strategy is to decide how much you want to save from each paycheck. You decide before you get the paycheck, you decide how much you're going to save. And then every time you get paid, you immediately put that money into a savings account. You don't wait to see what's left over at the end of the month, because the funny thing about money, the funny thing about extra money is that it has a way of getting spent. So if you decide, hey, I know that I should be able to save $50 from every paycheck, what you're going to do is pay yourself first. Don't wait to the end of the month. That's a very important concept. Okay, some people are gonna look at this and be like, you gotta be crazy. Save 10 to 20% of your income. This is in pre-tax. So that means, if you make $50,000 a year, you're saving $5,000 a year, that, pre-tax. This is the goal. You do not have to start here. Most people cannot and do not start here. This is what we're working up towards. And I'm gonna give you some steps to how to actually get up to this number, but don't feel like you have to start here. Automate everything. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how important this is. We're all human. We all have good intentions and we're like, I'm gonna remember to do that thing. And stuff happens, life happens, you forget, or something comes up. The best thing you can do when it comes to saving is have an automatic savings plan set up. So there's a couple ways you can do it. I mean, at Street Code, we're fortunate enough to, like, our payment system, the way we get paid, we can tell it where to put the money. So I can say, hey, take 20% of my money and put it directly into this account. Not everybody has that ability. What you can do is set up an automatic transfer from like your checking account to your savings account. So, every 2 weeks, $50 comes out right after your paycheck. So, but you want to automate it. That's very, very important. Build an emergency fund. So 3 to 6 months is the recommended size of emergency fund. So let's say that you actually spend $2,000 a month. This is not how much you make every month. This is how much you spend. So, before taxes, you might make $4,000, but you only spend $2,000. Your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of what you spend. And the purpose of it is, if something happens and you're out of work, you have this buffer. And another purpose of the emergency fund is, you get a flat tire or something like that. You don't want to have to run to your credit cards. It's nice to be able to have this little savings account that you can pull from. So let's talk about some ways to save. Automatic payroll deduction is one of them that we talked about. Give yourself a raise. Okay, so how I said you want to save 10 to 20% of your income, but we're going to get there over time. Most people who work at jobs for a long enough period of time, you end up getting raises. And the common thing to do when a lot of people get raised, this is not going to be you. When a lot of people get raises, they expand their lifestyle. They spend more because they're like, I'm making more, I can spend more. Well, you can do a little bit of that, but let's say you get like a 4% raise. Well, give yourself a raise. So save an additional 2% of that. And then so give your savings a raise, really. And then if you want to use that other 2% to like expand your lifestyle, that's okay. But you don't want to use all of your raise if you can avoid it. Some people have to, that's okay. But if you can't, if you have a buffer, try to put some aside for yourself. Save your tax refund. So this is a good way to get a jump start on your emergency fund. A lot of people get, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And especially like if you have a few kids, that can really, really add up. And if you don't have to immediately spend that money, you can take a chunk of it and put it in your savings account. And then there's something called the 52-week challenge. So somebody out there is probably saying to themselves, like, look, none of this is going to work for me. I can't save anything. You don't understand. I can't save anything. Well, my response to that is this 52-week savings challenge. Can you save $1? $1 a week. So let me show you, let me visualize this for you. You save $1 the first week, $2 the second week, $3 the third week, $4, and so on and so on. You see how it kind of builds on itself? At the end of the year, I don't want to give it away. Does anybody want to guess? You could put it in the chat, how much money you could save if you just save an additional $1 every week. How much money would you have saved up at the end of the year? I'll give you like 5 seconds. You can just throw out a wild guess. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have said winner gets a prize, but I don't have any prizes. Except you could have the sense of self-pride. So this is a chart that shows exactly what I'm talking about. Save $1 the first week, $2 the second week, and your balance slowly goes up. And you've probably already seen it. You probably already see that you could save $1,378 if you consistently do this throughout the whole year. So if you want this chart, it's on Etsy. You can buy it, but hey, just so you know, there's only one more left. No, I'm just kidding. You can just copy it. Where to save. So keep your savings in a separate savings account. This is so that you can't easily access it. And the less convenient it is to access that savings account, the better. And you want a high yield savings account. This means, there's something called interest, and the bank account will basically pay you money for keeping your money with them, but they don't pay you very much at all. So you want to try and find the bank account that pays you the most amount of money you can find, and those are called high yield savings accounts. I'm going to give you an example one in just a second, but consider a credit union. So your main bank can be a normal bank like Chase Bank or Bank of America. They have a lot of convenient features, so I'm not saying you don't need to use a regular bank. I have a regular bank, but you also want to consider a credit union, because the interesting thing about credit unions is they're nonprofits. They're designed to run at cost, and they're not designed to make a profit off of you like a regular bank is. And they usually, because of that, have better yields. So my recommendation is Patelco's Money Market Select account. There's other ones out here, but this is one of the best that I've seen. And I'm going to go to the page right now. So you'll see now, anybody who was born in the 80s or before, you're going to look at this and just be disgusted, because you're like, only 1%, APY. Back in the 80s or 90s, it used to be much higher, but this is what interest rates are right now. This is actually one of the higher interest rates. So down here on this page, they have a little calculator. Oh, I should say it's 1% of the first $2,000, and then it kind of gradually goes down from there. The average high yield savings account right now, like if you went to somewhere else, is about 0.5%. So this is, double that on your first $2,000. And so what would that look like? So if you saved $2,000 and you got a 1% APY, then the first year's interest would be $20. Not a lot, but hey, this stuff adds up. And I'm going to show you how to make a lot more money later on in the presentation when we talk about investing. But by the way, APY, for those who have never seen this term before, it stands for annual percentage yield. It's just how much interest you're going to get paid. So let me move back over to the presentation. All right. Okay, yes, this is something I'm sure we have all struggled with at one point or another, dealing with debt, how to break free ASAP. So here's I'm going to talk about some tips on dealing with debt. So where to start? This is a list, and it's going to be ranked in order of interest rate, like how much you are paying to keep this debt. So if you have payday loans, that is considered ultra high interest debt. And I'm going to show you on the next slide how high it can get. It's in California. It's crazy if you're in California, but you want to try and attack those first, because that can kind of become a vicious cycle. You're paying the minimum, but it seems like your balance is always growing. So if you have payday loans, take all of your extra resources and put it into paying these off. Credit cards, okay, so these aren't so bad. They're nothing compared to payday loans. You want to pay more than the minimum, but it's not something you need to stress about. Just consistently pay over time. Eventually they'll go away. The debt will go away, but try not to add too much to it. So car loans usually have an even lower interest rate than credit cards. I say usually. Sometimes you can end up with a car loan with crazy high interest rate, but just in general, stick to your car payment plan and you'll be all right. Same thing with your mortgage. Just stick to your mortgage plan. You'll be okay. And then student loans, I pay the absolute minimum on. And to qualify that, most federal student loans, if you have federal loans, they are very low interest rate debt, and your money could be better used elsewhere. So if you had to choose between piling, a bunch of money into your student loans or piling a bunch of money into your credit cards or payday loans, you'd be best off paying the minimum on your student loans and then putting all that extra money into these high interest debts. So, all right. And I promised you I would show you how high it can get. So to compare this, so first of all, just so you see, California is sitting, this is the typical payday loan interest rate. It's 460% a year. A typical credit card is like somewhere between 15 and 25%. So this is crazy high. That's why I say attack that first. All right. So some tips for success. Make a plan and stick to it. That's the biggest part about all of this. There's nothing too complicated about it. It's not like you need a lot of like strategy. It's really more about consistency. And so as you'll see, one of the keys to consistency, you're going to see this mentioned a lot during this presentation, but it's automate everything. I cannot stress that enough because we are human. So let the machines take care of it for you and do the work. So automate everything. Partner up with a friend. If you know somebody who's trying to also pay off debt, there's nothing like, you know, losing weight together or getting rid of debt together. An accountability partner helps. Patience is key. So it can take a little bit of time to pay off credit card debt or other debts. Again, we're not talking about mortgage and student loans. I'm not concerned about those. It's more like the credit card debt. That can take a little bit, and it's okay. But the reward, the payoff is so nice. And when it's done, when you're finally free from your credit card debt, it'll feel like, wow, the time flew by. So just be patient. You'll get there. Stick with it. And be sure to treat yourself along the way. So you might have, you know, pay off one credit card. Maybe you have 4 credit cards and you pay off one. Great, go take yourself for ice cream or something. You got to celebrate along the way. It's really important to, if you want to stay motivated to keep going. So be sure to treat yourself. Conquering credit. Okay, this section we're going to dive into a little bit more. So this is learn the rules and earn the jewels. That's what this is all about. Credit, there is strategy involved with this. So, you know, like I said, saving and paying off debt, it's more about consistency. There are some strategies with credit. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to give you the insider tip. So you're going to know more about that. You're going to know more about credit than most people after this section. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk about. When credit counts, credit report versus credit score, the 5 factors of credit, boosting your score. We're gonna do some credit myth busting. We're gonna talk about snowball versus avalanche, and rewards and bonuses. So let's get right into it. When credit counts. So this is just so you know, I'm gonna go ahead and start showing you these. These are all the people that can access your credit report. So credit is important because it can play into the decision to, you know, get a home loan. But I didn't know this until I started studying, but like, you know, cell phones, sometimes if you go to a cell phone carrier, they're going to ask you for your credit, or utilities to start up, you know, water or electricity, they might ask you for your credit. Landlords, for sure, I've been through that many times. But I didn't know insurance companies can sometimes look at your credit and give you they can change your rate depending on how credit worthy you are, I guess you could say. Employers, all of these people can look at your credit. So that's why we're going to spend a little bit of extra time on this so we can talk about how to boost your score. All right. So report versus score. Let's first start on the left here with credit report. So most people, when they think of credit, they think of credit score, but there's this other part. So your credit report, I'll just read here. It says, your credit report gives a comprehensive list of your lines of credit and payment history. But here's the important part. It doesn't contain your score. So if you go to like a website and pull your credit report, like annualfreecreditreport.com, I think it is, you're going to be kind of surprised because you're going to see all this information, but you're going to be like, where's my score? And it's not on there. But the important thing to note is that there are 3 major credit reporting bureaus. They are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And I'm sure you've heard these before, and they all have a different record. You might have a different score for each of them. And you might have a different credit report for each of them. So you'll notice some debts are not on certain credit reports. You know, Equifax may show this debt, but Experian may not. And that's because not every debtor reports to all 3 credit bureaus. So that's why your scores can differ from bureau to bureau. So it's good to look at your credit reports to just see what's on there. Now let's talk about credit score. Everybody's familiar with this one. So a credit score is a number that lenders use to evaluate how safe or risky you are as a customer. FICO is the most commonly used model and comes in multiple versions, many of them specialty scores for products such as auto or credit cards. So I didn't know this until I started studying it, but there are different FICO scores, and or I should say different FICO scoring models. And the most common one is something called FICO 8, which they use for credit cards and a lot of auto loans. But just so you know, you might have different, if you go to get a different kind of debt, they might pull a different FICO score. So the FICO score that you're used to seeing your number might look different if they pull a FICO 5, for example. But it's not really anything to worry about too much. Or yeah, don't worry about the different FICOs. But this is important to know. These are the credit score ranges right here. And so it kind of breaks it down. The most important thing I want to stress from this is that you don't need a perfect score. You really don't need a perfect score. Anything above like 670 is good. And if you're below 670, we're going to talk about how to get you there. So don't worry. All right. A lot of people don't know about this. These are the 5 factors of credit. The most important one, everybody knows this part, payment history. So this is paying your credit card bills on time. So that accounts for 35% of your score. This one right here, this amounts owed, otherwise known as credit utilization. Most people don't know about this one, but it's a huge part of your score. And if you can kind of hack this part, which I'll show you how to do, you can boost it's one of the fastest ways to boost your score. So we're gonna dive into that one a little bit more. Credit mix. So this is the different types of credit you have. So a credit card is different from an auto loan, which is different from a a mortgage loan. So there's different types of credit, and the credit bureaus want to see if you can handle different types of credit. It does not mean go out and get an auto loan if you don't have an auto loan. It just means that if you happen to have multiple types, then you're getting a higher score for that. But as you can see, it's not very influential. Credit history. This is the length of time you've had credit. So, if you got your credit card when you were 17 and you're 27 now, you would think that you'd have 10 years of credit history. However, it's an average. So if you got a credit card when you were 17 and you're 27 now, that's 10 years. But let's say you got a card when you were 22. I can't do the math, but let's say you average the 2 histories together. So 10 plus 5 divided by 2. Yeah, so your average credit history would be 7.5 years. So just to explain how that works. And then new credit, otherwise known as credit inquiry. So every time you go and apply for new credit, it can ding your score. But a lot of people give this way more weight than it actually is worth. It only dings your score about 1 to 5 points, and it falls off your credit report really quickly. Like within 6 months, all those inquiries go away. So there's actually some really good reasons to apply for new credit, and you don't have to worry so much about how much it's going to ding your score, because it could end up helping your score in the long run. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So, well, actually, probably now, boosting your score. Again, automate everything. So credit cards you have the ability to, pay. It's called automatic payments. Set that up. Please, please, please set that up. If you're getting a credit card bill in the mail and you have to like write a check in or do something like that, or you have to remember to pay your card on the 22nd of every month, at some point, it happens to the best of us, you're gonna miss it. And if you just automate everything, you don't have to worry about it. So pay down balances. Okay, so remember we talked about credit utilization. So what is credit utilization? Well, let me give you an example. If you have, it's the amount of credit that you're using versus your total limit of credit. So the example is, if you had a $1,000 credit card, you can put up to $1,000 on your credit card. And let's say you're using $500 of the 1,000. Well, your credit utilization ratio is 50%, and that is going to hurt your score. So they want to see 30% or less. 20% or less is even better. And then you get the best score really if you're 10% or less. But once you get below 30, you're going to notice a boost. So again, if you have $1,000 limit, but you're using 500 of it, that's a $500, or excuse me, 50% credit utilization ratio. So if you can get that down below $300, that becomes 30% or less. And so here's an interesting way to boost your credit utilization ratio. You can ask for a credit limit increase. This is not something that most people think of. So if you have a credit card, it's $1,000 balance, you're using 500 of it, that's a 50% credit utilization ratio. You can either pay it down, or what if you ask them to increase your credit limit to $2,000? So now you're using $500 out of $2,000. That's 25%. So just with that credit limit increase, you'd decrease your credit utilization from 50% to 25% without paying a single dollar. So now whether you get the credit limit increase, who knows? But you should never feel bad about calling and asking your credit card company to do a limit increase. I mean, if you're paying on time, you should be able to get one of these, once a year if that's your goal. So ask for a credit limit increase. Don't close accounts, downgrade. So, yay, you paid off your credit card. You might be tempted to, call them up, close the account, cut up the credit card. That is going to affect your credit history. It can affect your credit history. So if you're going to close you don't want to close your long-term accounts. Let's put it that way. So that credit card that you've had for 10 years, but you paid it off, do not close it. If it has an annual fee, you can just downgrade the card to a no annual fee card. Don't close it. You can cut it up and put it in the trash or whatever, but just don't close it so you can keep that credit history. And then another way to boost your score, you would be shocked at the number of credit reports that have errors. There's so many errors on these credit reports. Most people don't know. You'd be like, wait, I paid that off or something like that. So definitely review your credit report and see if you can find any errors. And then last one is become an authorized user. So if you know someone and you're very close with them and they have great credit history, I see a lot of grandmas might do this for their grandkids or something like that, or aunt might do it for you. If they have great credit history, you can ask them to become an authorized user on their credit card, and it copy pastes their credit history, all their good payments, it copy pastes it onto your credit report. So, I see people do this as young as like 14, 15 years old. I forget the bottom limit. You can't have a credit card below a certain age, but I've seen them literally do this as soon as their kid is old enough to have a credit card, they sign them up as an authorized user, and all of a sudden that kid has a great credit score. And then by the time they graduate from college, they can go do whatever they want to do. But the important thing here is this no card. So just because somebody makes you an authorized user does not mean they have to give you the card. And I would recommend that you don't. So, my little sisters are authorized users on my cards. And I told the bank, hey, make them authorized users, please, but send me the cards so they don't have to be tempted to, rack up. Not that they would, they're wonderful, but at least the temptation is not there. So become an authorized user is another way to boost your score. So I just wanted to show these again, because in case you need to see them, these are the 5 factors of credit: payment history, credit utilization / or amounts owed, accounts for 30%, credit mix 10%, credit history 15%, new credit 10%. So now you know some tips and tricks to boost your credit. Let's do a little myth busting. This is really important. Credit cards are not bad. They're a tool. They're not bad or good. They're just a tool. As a matter of fact, if you don't have a credit card, in this world, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because as you saw on that list earlier, a lot of people are going to try and pull your credit. And if you don't have a credit score, it can negatively affect your ability to get a mortgage, let's say. So I definitely recommend getting a credit card. Having multiple credit cards is not bad. And as a matter of fact, your credit score will go up. I think they want you to have 3 credit cards. Not that you have to do this. If you're bad with credit cards, if you don't trust yourself with a credit card, does not mean you have to go out and get credit cards. I just want you to know, if you have multiple ones, it's not necessarily hurting your score, and it's not necessarily bad. It's how you use them. You do not have to carry a balance. A lot of people think, oh, I gotta make sure I don't want to pay off my whole credit card because I don't want them to close it. You don't have to carry a balance from month to month. And let's say you have a credit card that you're not using. Here's what I do. You have to put something on it every 6 months. I have a credit card. I have a Discover card I didn't use for years, and they kept it open. So, but if you want to be safe, I take my cheapest bill, so Hulu or something like that, or Spotify, and I'll put that on a credit card that I'm not using. And every month, Spotify will bill the credit card, and then I have automatic payment set up. And so it will automatically pay that $10. It's not a large amount that I really have to worry about, not having it in my bank account. And then you can keep that card open. So that's an easy way to keep your card open, but don't feel like you have to pay the minimum just so you can carry it.
Hey, DJ, before I let you continue, We got a couple questions in the chat. I thought you wanted to maybe answer. One came
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
Jen. She said, "But what if they end up with bad credit?" And then Tunde asked, "Does the credit history from that specific card extend to the authorized user or your entire credit?"
So, but what if they end up with bad credit? So this is, I assume we're talking about, are you talking about adding someone as an authorized user, Jen? Uh-oh.
Yes.
Oh,
She
she
said
said yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So the wonderful thing is that you can have, just as easy as it is to become an authorized user, as soon as someone takes you off. So let's say your aunt or uncle ruins their credit. You're like, I don't want anything to do with that. You can have them take you off as an authorized user, and immediately all of that history goes away. So it's a great tool to use with someone that you trust and you know is doing a good job with their credit. But if for some reason they slip up, you can just say, hey, please take me off, and you'll be fine. Does the credit history from that specific card extend to the authorized user or your entire credit? So it does. The credit history extends to the like all of it. So all of your payment history, all those like green boxes you might see on your credit report, get copy pasted onto the other person's credit report. That's essentially what happens. So yeah. Okay.
CJ, just for that one particular card, right? Not for
Oh,
every
sorry.
card
Yes.
I have. Yes.
Thank you. It is just for that one particular card. My little sisters are only authorized users on my Discover card, and that's that. They only have that Discover card history, and it doesn't always boost your score a lot, but if you need a few points, it could definitely help. So, thank you, Kyle. All right.
And then there was one more
Oh
question.
yeah.
Someone said, Berta said, I used to spend about 80 to 90% of the credit card and I pay at once the whole amount. Is this good for my credit score?
Mm, I love that question. Yes. I mean, it's good for you and it's totally fine for your credit score. It's good for you because you're not paying interest. So, a lot of people, one of the automatic payment options when you set up automatic payments on your credit card is pay the entire statement balance. And if you can select that one, do. It's not going to hurt your credit score. You're still going to get a positive mark for paying your credit that month. But it's so yeah, I would say yes, definitely do it. There was a second part to that question. It doesn't hurt your credit. Oh, and it's good for you because you're not paying all the interest. So yeah. Okay. Oh, and I see another question. Because the bank closes your cards, they have closed me too. 25. So that scares me. Why do I not use them in the pandemic? Alexa, do you want to tell me what you are saying? Oh, is Alexa there? Okay, that's all right.
You
Whenever
can,
you.
Alexa, you can either put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
The bank closed me the cards 2 times already because they say I don't use them. And they closed me the cards with the higher amount, like 25,000. And I don't know if that affects my credit or why they do that.
Oh, that during the pandemic, there were a lot of credit card companies that were nervous that people were going to rack up a bunch of charges and not pay them off. So they started reducing people's credit lines and closing unused credit cards. It's not usual that they do that. It was because of the pandemic, basically. So now that we're kind of out of that, I wouldn't expect that to happen as frequently. However, if you're worried about that, just put a small charge on them every month. And the reason I like the automatic, payment thing is because I can basically take that card out of my wallet and I don't have to even think about it anymore. And it's automatically, completing this cycle every month. Like Spotify bills me $10. I automatically pay it off. I get the good credit mark, and I just keep that going. And I don't have to juggle all this stuff in my head. So Leticia said, I requested before to move an authorized user and was told by the bank I have to close my account in order to do it. So this is a good point. I guess it can vary from bank to bank. So before you add someone as an authorized user, that's not something that I commonly hear, but before you add an authorized user, just go ahead and make sure that it's easy enough to remove them. So that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up because every bank can be a little different. They all have different rules. So good to know. Oh, yes, and we talked about how a perfect score is not necessary. And you are not your credit score. This is what I really wanted to get to. This is so important. Never make the mistake of thinking your credit worthiness is a reflection of your worth as a person. That is not, they are two separate things. You are not your credit score. So please don't ever feel that way. And okay, I told you we're going deep into this credit card one because this is where all the strategies are. So hang in there. So snowball versus avalanche. A lot of people have heard of this. These are two strategies, one goal. The snowball method provides quick wins that motivate you to keep going. The avalanche method saves you money on interest payments. Either way, you can't lose. This is the simple path to financial freedom. The simplest one, in my opinion, is the debt snowball. I like this one. This is the one I used. And so we're going to focus on that. And rather than, you can, I'll read it to you, but the way it works is you make a minimum payment on all of your credit cards except the one with the smallest balance. So you're going to pay off the card with the smallest balance first, basically, is what you're trying to do. And then once you pay off that card, you roll everything you were paying on that card onto the next largest card balance. And then you pay that off and then you roll that. And it kind of creates this snowball. So by the end, when you're on your like third or fourth credit card, you're paying this huge amount every month because it's kind of gradually snowballed. So don't worry, I have a visual here to help with this. Okay, so this is kind of don't worry about the numbers too much. This is going to be more of a visual representation. So this is the normal way of paying off a credit card. So let's say you have a total balance of, this is 200, this is 400, this is 800, and you're paying, these are your balances at the beginning of January, and you're paying 50, 50, 100. So you're paying $200 a month and you're trying to pay off $1,400. Yes, this is $1,400. So $1,400 divided by 200 is 7 months. So you'll see it's January, February, March, April, May. This is 7 months. It's going to take you 7 months to, kind of pay everything off. What's the difference between the normal method and the snowball method? So pay attention to where the payments end. This is why I like the snowball method. So it still takes a total of 7 months to pay off, but what we're doing here is you're paying more on the lowest balance and you're knocking out that card quickly so that you have one less card to deal with. So by February, you're already celebrating. You're getting that quick emotional win. And then by April, you're celebrating again, right? And so let me walk through the mechanics of it very quickly. So you're putting $100 on this smallest balance, and your other balances, you're paying the minimum. So let's say the minimum is 50. So here's the 50, here's the 50. So you're paying 100 on this card. The first month, your ending balance is 100. The second month, your ending balance is 0. You have paid off this card. Well, what happens with this $100? You are going to now roll that down onto this card. And so you were paying 50-50, but now that this card's paid off, now you pay $150 every month. So as you can see, your $300 balance becomes 150, 150 becomes 0. And then you do it again. So this 150 gets rolled down to this last card, which had the highest balance to begin with, but you were paying 50, 50, 50, 50. Now you add 150 to that becomes, you're able to pay $200 a month, and then boom, you're knocking out this card in the last 3 months. So let me just show that visualization again. It's the same amount of time essentially, but it's a different emotional feeling. You get these quick wins, and that's why I like the snowball method, because it keeps you motivated. So this is the last thing we'll talk about on credit cards, rewards and bonuses. So let's just break down this offer here. This is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Actually my sisters call me a professional bank robber because I take money from banks all the time. So you see this right here, this $200 cash back? I have this card, and I got paid to sign up for this card, basically. So I don't sign up for a credit card unless they're giving me money. That's the place where I'm at in my life right now. I'm like, if you're just trying to give me like a case of water or something like that, or like, 5% off of my purchase, that's not enough for me. I want some real money. So this card right here is giving me 200. I'm like, hey, okay. Now, what else is it giving me? You can earn 5% cash back on travel, 3% on dining, 1.5% on all other purchases. So I look at this as a coupon. Basically, it's like having a 5% coupon on travel because I'm getting that money back. And on dining, same thing. It's like everywhere I walk into and I use this card, I have a 3% off coupon. And what's interesting about this card is it says $200, but really what they're doing is giving you $200 worth of points. And same here, it's going to be 5% worth of points. And I'm going to talk about why that's useful in a second. But I just wanted you to know it's not necessarily $200 cash, it's points. Now you can use those points to pay off your bill, so it could become cash, but I have something I like to do a little differently. But let's keep it moving. 0% APR. This is nice. So that means you don't have to pay interest for 15 months. If you can find a card like this, that is awesome. And now the intro period after is 15 to 23%, depending on your current credit score. If you are able to, you'll never have to pay interest on a credit card if you can pay off the balance in full. That's not an option everybody has, but if you are able to, just know that the interest rate doesn't matter. Because if you have a card, like, one of my cards, I don't ever have to pay interest on it because I just pay off the balance. And so I don't even know what the interest rate is. That's where we want to get you to. Annual fee. This is nice. $0 annual fee. Hey, love that. So what I do with my points, I haven't paid for a flight in like 4 years. So all my points add up. I get these sign-up bonuses, and I use that to pay for travel, because travel to me for me personally, is more important than the cash back. I want to be encouraged to travel. So I store up all these points, and then I basically go all over the world for free. That's a different level of the game. We're not going to really go there right now. I just want you to know that it is possible. This is why I love credit cards, because I use them to pay for my lifestyle, like my ability to travel. So I will actually stop. I think this is, let me stop here. And the next section is going to be investing. But if there are any questions, Kyle.
Yeah, this is a great time for Q&A. I know there's a lot of material covered, and I know DJ went through it smoothly and quickly, but I do know his memory is so well that he knows exactly where to go to find the answer you're looking for. So if you have any questions right now about anything we just covered, that is, I guess, the first part of the presentation is a slight intermission for questions and Q&A, and then we're gonna keep moving forward until probably we'll be here till 7:30, and we're gonna do another Q&A after. So yeah.
Give it a second. I just thought it'd be nice to hear a different voice besides mine for a second.
No, all good. No, all good. It seems like everyone is in tune and waiting for the next section. So if there's any, like I said, any questions throughout, I'll be monitoring the chat. So as DJ is presenting, I'll find time. But if you don't have any questions right now, we can keep going. I know you need some oxygen and some water, sir. So
yeah,
definitely.
All
Can I
right,
ask
we'll
a
keep
question?
Oh, absolutely.
Hi, this is Catherine. What's my question going to be? Okay. Can you have too many credit cards? As in, you signed up, you got all the bonuses. Can you have too many? Do you ever try and combine them so that you keep the the credit, available credit high? Or that's my question. Can you have too many?
I love it. That's such a good question. It's the way to answer it is I'm going to ask you a question back. Well, no, don't worry. I want to ask you, if you are good at managing your credit. My personal answer is no. I make so much money off credit cards. I probably have like 8 credit cards, and I'm going to get 2 more this year. I have like 600,000 points. And the way I got it, by the way, it's not like I spent $1 for every point. I've never made like 6 figures in my life. I don't make a lot of money. I just am really good at getting these sign-up bonuses. I know how to work the credit card system. So that's why I say I can travel everywhere for free. To answer your question, if you feel comfortable like managing your credit, the rewards that you get, the benefits of having multiple credit cards far outweigh any sort of like bad marks on your credit. Because like I said, the only thing that would happen is you get a credit inquiry deduction, and that's 1 to 5 points, and it goes away after about 6 months. It'll fall off your credit report. And so every 6 months I get a new card. So that's me personally, but it took me a while to learn how to manage my credit. So don't feel like you have to run out and get 10 cards.
And
Does that
then-
answer it?
Yes, that answers it. I already have about 8. I'm currently working on the on that Sapphire, Chase Sapphire offer. I'm about to get that 100,000.
100,000 points. The Sapphire preferred offer.
I was going to say, but how many points do you have?
She probably has a lot.
I know. I'd be interested to see, you guys like go at it.
Oh, it's fun. I have a spreadsheet. I don't mess around. I'm like,
That's
I know
cool.
exactly what I'm applying for and when.
If we start doing credit comparisons as a sport, we've hit a new level of financial prowess in the
There you
community.
go.
That's a sport. Is let's compete with our credits.
Yes.
We have another question in the chat. We have actually 2 questions. Which credit card do you think personally is the best? And then the other question from Adriana is, do you have any advice for people seeking to apply to their first credit card?
Yeah, I mean, the credit card you're looking at right here, first of all, I think Chase is my favorite because I love travel so much. Chase has like the best travel rewards. So I'm deep in the Chase credit card family. I got like a lot of Chase credit cards. This unlimited one is awesome. And they also have a Chase Freedom Flex, which is awesome. So between those two, you can't go wrong. And I think the Flex is a 0%, zero annual fee as well. And you're definitely gonna get money back. So I say if you're gonna start somewhere, look at Chase. Oh, sorry, and for your first credit card, so if you have no credit history, you might not be able to jump in and get a regular sort of credit card like this, but they have student cards. That's one place to start. And the other one is secured credit cards. So those work a little differently. You pay them money, you give them $500, and that's your credit card limit. And then, if you don't pay your credit card, they'll just keep your $500. But if whenever you want to cancel if you want to get rid of your secured credit card, they'll give you your $500 back. But basically, you're securing your limit by giving them money. That's like more of a last resort. But I would say, as for a first credit card, a student credit card, Discover is another great place to start. I love Discover credit cards, and they have excellent customer service. All right.
I found the
Okay.
student credit cards way too easy to get.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
It is I got my first credit card when I was a freshman. They sent me some ad and I got it. And what did I do? Because I didn't know anything about credit. I racked up a bill. I think I bought a laptop on it. Took me forever to pay that laptop off. So don't be like me. But just know credit card companies absolutely prey on students and young people. They can't wait to send you an ad in the mail. So, all right. So the next part, if you can stick around, so we kind of talked about, the building blocks of having like a good financial life now. But there's this whole future you have to think about as well, because one day you're going to want to retire, for example. This next section is how let me just go to the next slide. It's investing for the future. This is the key to generational wealth. And I want to just preface this. Well, I think I'm going to preface it in the slide, so I'll get to it in a second. But if you can stick around for this is probably going to be some of the most important information you hear in your life. I'm not joking. If you can stick around for this could change your life. All right, so let's get some advice from the Oracle. And so some of you might know Warren Buffett is also known as his nickname is the Oracle of Omaha because he's from Omaha, Nebraska. But here's a quote from him: "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." That sounds morbid, but what does he mean by that? It means that you need to put your money to work for you. Put your money to work for you. You can't just sit it under your mattress. You need to put it to work. And we're going to talk about the ways to do that. And here's something that's also very important. So again, if you're born in the 70s or 80s, like you know about this already, cash won't cut it. You can't just leave cash sitting around because of this thing called inflation. So a cup of coffee in 1970 was 25 cents. You can't I don't know where you could get a 25-cent cup of coffee these days. You know, at McDonald's it's going to be around $1.59, or the gas station, something like that. Certainly not Starbucks. You're not getting $1. It's even more expensive there. And so the way I like to think about inflation is money is worth less over time. It becomes worth less. And I'm not going to get into like what inflation is and all that stuff, because you don't really need to know it. Just know that money becomes less over time. And so a great way to illustrate this is if I gave you $100 and a time machine and told you to go buy dinner for yourself, would you go 50 years into the future, or would you go 50 years into the past with that $100? Well, based on this chart, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck 50 years ago. $100 went a long way. $100 50 years in the future, who knows? So money is worth less over time due to inflation. That's important. And let me illustrate this point even further. So this is, you can watch this video on YouTube, but a couple found they were renovating a house, and they found a suitcase in the wall. It was more of a lunchbox, but it had $23,000 in it. Okay, so $23,000, and with that discovery, they found a newspaper, and that newspaper was from March 25th, 1951, suggesting that this $23,000 had been sitting there in the wall of this house since 1951, or the floor, one of the two. So what was $23,000 worth in 1951? A good, like, what could you buy with that? So a good way to illustrate that is with a car. So thinking about cars, what can $23,000 get you today? Hey, this is a solid, dependable car. This is a 2021 Corolla, Toyota Corolla hybrid. As you can see, it almost gets you this car. This is the starting price, $23,600. So you can almost buy a 2021 Corolla with $23,000. But what is the equivalent car you could have paid for with that $23,000 in 1950, whatever it was? Drum roll. What could you have gotten? Let's see. You could have gotten the equivalent of a Bentley Continental, not just a regular Bentley Continental, the convertible Bentley Continental. And as you can see, this is starting at $207,000. So on the next slide, the money, here it is. In 1951, $23,000 was the equivalent of $238,134 today. So not only could you have gotten that convertible Bentley, you could have like gotten an upgraded model too. So the point I'm trying to make is that time destroys money if you just leave money sitting around. So I have a question for you. Rather than hide money in the walls of your house, what could you do instead? And the answer is invest it. And that's what we're talking about. You can invest that money. So there are three, in America, there are basically three paths to wealth. Like how can you invest? Start a business, real estate, and the stock market. Those first two are complex. Starting a business, dealing with real estate can be a little complex. This is the simple path to financial freedom. Now, I know it seems counterintuitive, but the least complex of the three of these, in terms of what you're going to do with it and what I do with it, is the stock market. So we're going to talk about the stock market right now. And this is a friendly reminder. You don't need to know everything, just enough to get you to your destination. So this does not mean you're going to have to go out and buy 4 screens and read charts all day and become a day trader. That's not how I invest. And as a matter of fact, that's not a good way to invest, period. If you don't have a degree in finance, you're competing with the best in the world. You don't want to overcomplicate this. In fact, there was a study that was done. Fidelity holds a lot of people's retirement accounts. And so they were able to look and see who did the best over time. And they found that the people who made the most money over time, if they put some money in, maybe they did something with it, maybe they didn't. The people who made the most money over time were the people who forgot they had an account there. Meaning they didn't trade. They didn't like go in and buy stocks and do all this stuff. It was the people who basically were like, oh yeah, I had some money sitting there. Let's check on that, 20 years later. And then it's huge. So investing is one of the few sports where it's like the less you do, the better you can be for most people, unless you're Warren Buffett. That's a different story. So let me just go through some investing terms briefly. Again, you don't need to know everything, but here's some terms you're going to hear. Stock. A stock represents ownership in a publicly traded company like Apple, Tesla, Costco. The price of a stock can change over time, sometimes drastically. Bond. A bond is just a loan. It's a loan from an investor to a borrower, such as a company or a government. So just like when you take out a loan and you have to pay interest, well, when you give somebody a loan through a bond, they pay you interest. So the borrower uses the money to fund the operation. So you know, if you have a city bond, a municipal bond, or you know, like something like that, they're using the money to build a bridge, and then the investor, that's you. You're the investor. You're getting paid interest on your investment. So that's what a bond is. That's probably the last time we're going to talk about bonds. So you don't really need to know what that is, but I just wanted to cover it. And then an index fund. An index fund is a bundle of investments whose holdings match or track a particular market index. And an index, when you think of an index, just think of a list. And there's lots of different index funds, and they're all grouped by a theme. So either that theme is like size or type or sector, you know, healthcare, energy, or location, you know, like, oh, US funds or international funds. Again, I'm just telling you this, but you don't really need to know that much. I'm gonna tell you exactly what to do. So don't worry too much about these terms. So stock, bond, index fund. All right, let's move on. So more advice from the Oracle. So Warren Buffett said in 2021, this year, he said the best thing to do is buy 90% in an S&P 500 index fund. So when Warren Buffett leaves his money to his family, this is exactly what he told them to do. He's like, just take your money and put it in an index fund. Now, you'll notice he said 90% in an index fund. You're like, what's up with that other 10%? Don't worry about the other 10%. It adds a lot of complexity. So we're not even gonna worry about it. And you can do just fine by putting all your money in an S&P index fund. So what is the S&P 500 index? All right. It's just a list containing 500 of the largest companies in America. That's all it is. So, you know, Apple's on that list, Microsoft's on that list, Tesla is now on that list. It's all of these 500 companies. Now, what you can think of an S&P 500 index fund as a way to easily buy stock in every company on the list. All right, let's think about back in the day. If you you're in the 1950s, you know, since it's our favorite era for this presentation. How would you buy one of every five? If you wanted to buy 500 companies, you'd have to buy like each one at a time. So you'd have to call up your stockbroker and be like, I want to buy this huge list of companies, and you'd probably pay a ton of trading fees and all this stuff to make it happen. Well, then in the 70s, a guy by the name of Jack Bogle invented something called an index fund. And it's basically, like I said, a way to own all these 500 companies, specifically the S&P 500 is a way to own all these 500 companies by just buying like one share of this index fund. So it made it so much easier. And this has been this has been an amazing invention. All right, so what if, remember that $23,000 that was hidden in the wall? What if it had been invested in an S&P 500 index fund instead? It would now be worth, I mean, you can guess if you want, 1950, whatever, 51, $23,000, you put it in an S&P 500 index fund. You know that if you just left it alone, it would still be worth $23,000 today. You know, like you'd have $23,000 worth of cash. That's all you got. But anybody guess in the chat? Let's see. I see 23 million. I see 3 million. It is, all right. So here it is. It's closer to Adeline, Addie, you were the winner. It is $5 million. It would be worth $5 million today. I have this little asterisk down here for those who are stock nerds and want to know, like, how did you get that number? It's assuming an annual return of 8%, which is generally speaking, on average, the stock market gives you somewhere between like 6 and 10% a year on average. So I just used 8%, but $5 million. That's the power of investing. That's why you don't want to just leave it in a wall or just leave it in a bank account or under your mattress. Okay. How is that possible? Short answer, a little something called compound interest. And we're not going to get into it that much, but let's just say Einstein supposedly said compound interest was it was the eighth wonder of the world. Like it's amazing. And here's a cool little visual that kind of breaks down compound interest. So, I said the stock market returns somewhere between like 6 and 10%. Let's just use 6% for this example. If you invest $10,000 into something like an S&P 500 index fund, and at the end of the year, you're going to have 6% more. So that's $10,600. That's the end of year one. Well, at the start of year two, you have $10,600, and now you make 6% on that. So at the end of the year, you have $11,236. Okay. Year three, you're starting with $11,236. You make 6% on that. Now you're ending with $11,910. So this is compounding on itself. Every year you start with more money, you make the same interest rate, and you end up with more money. Imagine doing this for like 30 years. You could see how, in our example, it was 70 years of compound interest. That's how you end up with $5 million. So from 23,000. So I just wanted you to know a little bit about that. So after hearing all this, are you feeling like, yeah, I'm into this whole investing thing? So if you are, let's keep it real simple. You want to use your retirement account if you have one. So if you have a job that has a 401k, start investing in there. And the reasons are tax related, like you don't have to pay taxes necessarily. It's tax deferred. I mean, I won't go into what all that means. Just know that you're not gonna have to pay the taxes till later, most of the time. If you don't have a 401k at work, you can open up an IRA, which stands for an individual retirement account. So if you're working and you have income, you can open an IRA. And there's other different types of accounts. We don't have to get into that. Just know that you want to use a tax advantaged account is what they're called. So that's usually most retirement accounts are going to be tax advantaged. Oh, teachers, I think, have 403Bs, and people in the military have a different name for it, but most people have one, or have access to one. Once you get into your retirement account, they have investments that you can choose from. You get to pick your own investments. So a big mistake a lot of people make, and I'm pretty sure I made this mistake, is you might put money into that account and it's just sitting there until you tell it what to invest in. So you might be like, I've been putting money in my account all year, but if you didn't tell it what to invest in, it'll just be sitting there like a bank account. So when you get in there, you're going to tell it what to invest in. What you're going to look for is the lowest cost S&P 500 index fund. And if you don't know where to find it, call your employer or ask somebody. There's YouTube videos. You just find the lowest cost S&P 500 index fund and allocate a percentage of your paycheck every week. So if you have an employer, they'll do this for you automatically. They'll ask you how much do you want taken out of your paycheck and put into your 401k. So decide what you're going to do with that. Or if you have an IRA, you can do it manually. If you have a company match, make sure you get that free money. This is free money. A lot of companies, if they offer you a 401k, they're going to say like, listen, if you save 3% of your paycheck, we'll match you. We'll give you that same 3%. And sometimes companies go as high as like 8%. I think I worked for a company one time, Southwest Airlines at the time had like something really high, like 8%. So that means if I saved, they would match whatever I saved up to 8% of my paycheck. But the point is, if you see company match, you want to make sure you're saving at least that amount. So if the company match is 3%, make sure you're saving at least 3%. Okay, because that's free money. And then don't sell any shares until you retire. You're gonna hear a lot of people talk about like, oh, market's going crazy, sell everything, get out. That's not gonna be you. And we're gonna talk, I'm gonna visualize this for you in just a little bit, but you don't wanna sell any shares until you retire. The motto here is buy and hold, buy and hold. Okay, so here's what most people don't realize. Investing should be boring. It's not supposed to be exciting where you're like glued to the screen all the time. That's like trading. That's a different type of thing. Investing for most people should be boring. So here it is. You work, you get paid, you buy the S&P 500, you don't sell. And you just repeat this cycle over and over and over again. And you do that for 30 years or however long until you retire. And then you look up and you have a bunch of money. And again, I didn't say buy the S&P 500. You don't have to take my word for it. That was Warren Buffett, who knows that most people aren't built to be traders, you know, like having the 4 screens and all that stuff. Most people will do, in fact, you will you will make more, your return will be higher than most people who day trade if you just leave your money alone. Just like I said with that Fidelity study, the people who did the best are the people who forgot they had the money. So you can just buy something, leave it alone, and look up 20, 30 years later and like, hey, I can retire now. So, okay. It should, oh yes, yes, it should be boring. It should be, you should feel like this very cute dog falling asleep. Okay. Here's what a day in the life of the stock market looks like. It looks like a roller coaster. If you zoom in, it's like ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Okay. Here's how it should feel to you. You shouldn't be paying any attention to like the news. The news is screaming at you. And the reason they do that is because they want to sell commercials is basically what it is. They want to sell ads. How do they sell ads? By creating clickbait, fear, you know, oh my God, everything's falling apart. That's the news. This is you. You know better. You know that all you're going to do is buy and hold. You don't care what happens in the market. You don't have to pay attention to it. Trust me. I've been doing this for years. You know when I made, this is a fun story. You know when I made the most money was when during 2008, the 2008 financial crisis, because I didn't know what I was doing, but I worked for Southwest Airlines at the time, and a flight attendant said to someone who knew much more about this than I did. I didn't know anything at the time. I was like, 22 years old or something. And they said to me, hey, set up your retirement account, make sure you do that, and just automatically put money in, every paycheck. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I did that all throughout the 2008 financial crisis. And I didn't pay any attention to what was going on because I didn't understand it. Well, I looked up years, literally this happened to me like years later. I looked at that account and I was like, where did all this money come from? And the fact is, when the stock market dips, when the prices go down, it's like everything is on sale. So I was buying everything on sale. I didn't even realize it. So if I'm putting in $100, out of every paycheck, and normally one share costs $100 during normal times, well, then I can only buy one share if I'm putting in $100. But what happens if the prices drop? Let's say the price drops to 50. Now my $100 buys 2 shares. So I was buying all these shares. And then when the price went back up, I had way more shares than I would have otherwise because I bought them at a cheap price. So when the market goes down, the way I look at it is like everything's on sale. So this is why I don't pay attention to anything in the news. All right. So let me illustrate this for you. Think big picture. So you remember when COVID-19 happened? This is like everybody was screaming, "Oh my God, this is the end of the world." The stock market dipped. It dipped like real hard. And did I sell? Nope. I just stayed in. And here's why I want you to think big picture. So this was a very short amount of time. It was like January to July of 2020. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, this is the S&P 500 over from 1952 to 2021. You guys, you all want to know where coronavirus is? It's right here. This like dip in coronavirus is like right here. So if you had invested your money and just rode it out, you can see over time it just goes up. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not gonna say it always goes up. Like I said, it feels like a roller coaster, but for reasons we'll talk about in just a second, it's very likely to just continue to go up over time. So if you can stay invested for 5, 10, 15 plus years, you're very unlikely to lose money on your investment in the long term. So don't be afraid. So here's the stock market takeaways. The stock market is one of the most powerful wealth building tools ever created. It's volatile in the short term. It moves up and down a lot in the short term, but it's very stable in the long term. Like it just looks like a chart that goes up and to the right in the long term. And too big to fail. So just to double click on this, the government is very unlikely to allow the stock market to collapse, like completely fail, because there's too many wealthy, powerful people, and not even just that, it's just too many Americans have their wealth tied up in the stock market. If they let the stock market fail, it becomes a huge problem. And so they will even print money. This is what we saw during COVID. They'll do whatever they have to do to bring the stock market back. The reason I don't know a lot about real estate, and so I don't do any real estate investing. But one of the things is that let's say I bought the house next door, and it catches on fire. Like the government's not really coming to save me. You know what I mean? But let's say the stock market catches on fire. Oh, you better believe the government's coming with like a huge fire hose to put that thing out. So I like having my money there because the chances of it failing seem pretty slim. And a stock market takeaway, the next one is the less you do, the better. You don't have to be trading around all the time, buying and selling and doing all that stuff. You can just buy one thing, set it and forget it. The sooner you start, the better. So today's a good day. So there's an expression that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So if you didn't get started 20 years ago, I don't know a single person that is happy with the time the age that they started investing. Like everybody I know started investing like much later because we didn't know about this stuff. And so that is okay. Just start where you are and you will build from here. So don't be discouraged. So
DJ, we do have one question.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Thank you.
Would it make sense to prioritize S&P 500 versus a 401k if you plan to use the money you gain from investments for a large pre-retirement purchase?
So I like this question. The S&P 500 and the 401ks I'm glad you asked it. A 401k is different from the S&P 500. Here's how you can think of it. The S&P 500 is the investment. The 401k is the basket that holds the investment. And this basket is tax protected, but you don't invest in a 401k. You don't go out and buy a stock called 401k. It's just it's the vehicle that you use to purchase your whatever investments you choose. So when a company says they offer you a 401k, it just means, hey, you can buy things and put it into this tax advantage basket, but you still have to decide what to buy. And so that's why I said a lot of people think that, you just put money in a 401k and you've invested in your 401k. Nah, you just put money in this basket, but you now need to tell it you actually need to buy something once in the basket. And the thing that I'm suggesting that you buy, based on Warren Buffett's, suggestion, based on like my own life, what I've seen, the S&P 500 is a great investment, and it's very simple. So I hope that answers your question. The analogies help. Okay, great. Yeah, and don't worry. There's going to be lingering questions, and at the end of this presentation, you're going to get my personal calendar. I'll explain this at the end, but you'll be able to talk to me directly to talk specifically about your personal situation. So
we have another question, DJ.
Yeah, sure.
But it is 7:27. I wanted to let you know. Alexa, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Can I use my credit card money to invest, or I need to have the money on my checking account?
Oh, no, do not use your credit card to invest. So use the money that comes out of your paycheck, if you can. If you have like a 401k or something, they'll usually take the money right out of your paycheck. Or you can take money out of your checking account, but don't use your credit card because your credit card is going to make you pay interest on that money. So whatever you're earning from an investment, you're going to end up paying more in interest. So it's not a good combination. I hope that helps. But
yeah, my second question is how many times I can check my credit? My friend said, don't check your credit because they go down.
Oh, I like this question too. So you can check your credit for free, your free annual credit report. You can check it every week and it does not affect your credit. Like you could go on, I think the website is freeannualreport.com, and you'll see it says you can pull your report every week and look at it. The reason it used to be like 4 times a year, but they increased it because of COVID, and so it seems to be sticking. Like it went from like 4 times a year to now you can check it every week, and so it does not. And you can get it. Yes. So Adeline says you can get official credit reports from credit lenders. So if you happen to run your credit somewhere, if somebody pulls your credit, like you're going to an apartment or whatever, you can ask them for your credit report. So yes, that's another way to get it. Now, if they pull your credit, that is considered an inquiry. But if you pull your own credit, it's not considered an inquiry. So good question. And thank you, Kyle, for the time. We're rounding third base. So hang in there, hang in there. All right, so make it last forever. Here's the question. If I give you $8 every week and you spend $8 every week, how long will your money last? And it's not a trick question. The answer is 1 week, okay? But if I give you $8 every week, but you only spend $4 every week, how long will your money last? Forever. So if you spend, well, I'm gonna break this down, but basically you will never ever run out of money. This when I learned this blew my mind, and I'm about to show you on the next slide, but I did not know that this was possible. There is something called the 4% rule. Okay. So when you're ready to retire, you can spend up to 4% of your investments and never run out of money. Now I say never, but something crazy could always happen, like, you know, an asteroid hits the Earth or something like that. But statistically, it's very, 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 very unlikely that you will run out of money. And don't worry, I'm going to give you an example here in just a second, so it'll make sense. But just know, you can spend up to 4% of your investments and you'll never run out of money. Why does this work? Because the stock market, like I said, returns on average 8% a year. The stock market's giving you 8% a year, but you're only spending 4%. So every year you're getting 8%, but you're only spending 4%. Let's look at an example to really illustrate this. So let's say you save up $100,000 between now and retirement. Like, congratulations, you saved up $100,000. It's in the market, you know, invested in the S&P 500 fund, maybe some bonds or something like that. The stock market is paying you 8% a year. 8% of 100,000, that's $8,000 per year. So that's what the stock market's giving you. But you're only spending 4% per year. 4% of $100,000 is $4,000 per year. So you're only spending 4, but you're getting 8. That's $333 a month. Guess what that means? You can spend $333 per month forever. You will basically never run out of money. And if you don't touch it, your kids can spend that money. And if they don't touch it, their kids can spend that money. But you might be saying, like, $333, that's worth a lot now, but like, what's that going to be worth in 100 years? I don't know, right? Well, this $333, it's not including annual inflation increases. So what this means is, like, you get to give yourself a raise on this $333 every year based on inflation. We talked about inflation earlier. Like, it's usually around 1 to 2% a year. So you basically get to give yourself a raise of 1 to 2% on this $333 every year, and you could do that forever. Let's get one more example to drive it home. Let's say, oh man, you started saving early. You know, you've been really fortunate in your life. You save up $1 million between now and retirement. The stock market is paying you 8% a year. That's 8% of a million is $80,000 per year. So you're getting that money. It's like, it's growing in your account, but you're only spending 4% a year. So 4% of $1 million is $40,000 per year. That means you can spend $3,333 a month, and you will never run out of money. You can spend that forever, and your kids can spend it, and you get an inflation increase every year. So this is what I like to call. Oh, well, here, I'll say this. The goal is simple. It's a very simple goal. Save up as much money as you can before you retire. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old or if you're 55 years old. Just save up as much money as you can before you retire, because anything you can save up, it's going to give you I call, oh, here, let me see the next slide. I call it a money tree, but we'll get to that in a second. Leaving a legacy. Okay, so you want to know how to build generational wealth. I just showed you. This is it. This is how what you just learned. I know it seems like this is a long presentation, but just imagine what you've learned. You're going to be able to take this and go build generational wealth with it. It's not complicated. This is simple stuff. So plant a money tree. This is what I call it. All right, so let's break this down. This is you, this is your kids, and then your grandkids, generational wealth. This kind of like trunk here is the money that you've saved up. And every year you get this leaf, and you can pluck this leaf off, right? And as long as you don't cut down the trunk, this tree will keep producing leaves. So if you saved $100,000, you know, you're going to get that $4,000 every year. You take the 4,000, You don't spend the 100, you know, that's what I mean by cutting down the trunk. Don't spend the 100, just spend the leaf, you know. But the interesting thing is, remember I said the stock market's paying you 8%, but you're only spending 4. What's happening with that other 4%? It's your account's growing. So you're, believe it or not, let's say you retire at 65. I mean, by the time you're 100, it's going to shock you. You're going to have more money in your account than when you started, even though you've been spending money every single year. You've been spending money, but it's just going to keep growing bigger and bigger. And remember, I told you I worked in wealth management, or Kyle told you, this is exactly what I saw. Like I would see much older people, you know, I get to see their accounts, and it'd say like, oh, they retired in 2005. And the account level would be here. And then now it's 2020 and their account level's up here, but the whole time they were taking out money. I'm like, wait, what? So anyway, you will grow a money tree if you just don't cut down the trunk. And then here are some numbers on the side: 6 to 8% average annual stock market return, 3 to 4% is what we call the safe withdrawal rate. So you can take out 3 to 4%. And if you do that, there's a 99% chance you'll never run out of money. Okay, so everybody here, I want you to plant a money tree. Start saving, start investing. Let's plant a money tree so that you can leave something to a future generation. So this is it. We're done. You made it through. Congratulations. These are the simple steps, just repeating them here again. If you want to sum it all up, spend less than what you make, invest the rest, avoid unnecessary debt, and insure against uncertainties. So, oh, hey, all right, we're done. Thank you all very much. I want to say a special thanks to everyone who has signed up for a financial coaching session with me in the past. The information, the questions that were asked in these coaching sessions is how I built this presentation. So let me explain. I do free coaching sessions, and it's like completely free. I don't want anything from you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I do it because I don't want people to make the same mistakes I made. And the information is not hard, but a lot of people think it is. So I wanted to talk to people individually to tailor this stuff to their situation so that they know they can do it. And if you want to book your own session, my Calendly link right here, and we can put it in the chat, but write this down or remember it. Calendly.com/callwithdj. It's going to give you direct access to my calendar, and you can just put time on my calendar whenever you want, and I will sit with you and we will talk about your specific financial situation at no cost. All right. Whew. We did it. We did it, y'all. Pat yourselves in the back. You made it. Oh my goodness.
DJ, you did it. You just put us through a great session of financial learning.